Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding a small, ordinary-looking coin in your hand, something most people wouldn't even think twice about. A simple 1-cent piece from the United States, dated 1978 with a tiny D mint mark stamped just below the year, quietly indicating that it was produced at the Denver Mint. And yet beneath that modest appearance lies a story that stretches across decades of American history, economics, craftsmanship, and the fascinating world of coin collecting, where even the smallest detail can transform a common object into something of extraordinary value, sometimes even rumored to reach staggering figures, like $234 million in speculative discussions among collectors and enthusiasts who are always searching for the rarest possible variations. This particular coin, often referred to as the 1978 D. Lincoln cent, carries with it the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has been a staple of American coinage since 1909, making it one of the longest-running designs in U.S. history. And when you look closely at the obverse side, you can see Lincoln's profile facing to the right, calm and dignified, with the word Liberty placed to his left, the date 1978 to his right, and the phrase "In God We Trust" arching above his head, all carefully engraved with precision that reflects decades of minting expertise. The reverse side of the coin, however, is equally significant, as it features two wheat ears framing the words 1 cent and United States of America. Although by 1978 the design had already transitioned to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, meaning instead of wheat ears, you would actually see the detailed depiction of the Lincoln Memorial itself, a structure so finely engraved that, under magnification, you can even spot the tiny seated statue of Lincoln within the memorial, a remarkable detail considering the coin's small size. And above this design appears the phrase, E pluribus unum, reinforcing the unity of the nation. Now, when it comes to the physical characteristics of the 1978 D penny, it weighs approximately 3.11 grams, composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that was standard for U.S. pennies before the changes that came in the early 1980s when copper became more expensive and the mint shifted toward a zinc-based core. And this heavier copper composition is one of the reasons collectors often prefer older pennies, as they carry a certain tangible sense of history and durability that newer coins simply do not possess. The D mint mark itself is a small but crucial detail, as it signifies that the coin was minted in Denver, one of the primary minting facilities in the United States. And while millions upon millions of these coins were produced in 1978, making them quite common in circulated condition, the true intrigue begins when collectors start examining the coin for rare errors, unusual strikes, or pristine, uncirculated conditions, because in the world of numismatics, rarity is not always about how many coins were made, but rather how many have survived in exceptional condition or with unique characteristics that set them apart from the rest. As you dive deeper into the history of this coin, you begin to understand that 1978 was a time of economic change in the United States, with inflation affecting the value of currency and the production of coins continuing at a massive scale to meet the demands of everyday transactions. And yet, within that mass production lies the possibility of anomalies, small mistakes in the minting process that can turn an ordinary penny into a collector's dream, whether it be a double die error, an off-center strike, or an unusual coloration caused by variations in the metal composition or environmental factors over time. Collectors often spend years searching through rolls of pennies, examining each one under magnification, hoping to find that one rare piece that stands out. And while most 1978 D pennies are worth only a few cents or slightly more in uncirculated condition, the narrative around coins reaching extraordinary values, like $234 million, often stems from a combination of myth, speculation, and the very real fact that some coins, under the right circumstances, have sold for astonishing amounts due to their rarity, historical significance, or unique errors. creating a sense of excitement and possibility that keeps the hobby alive and thriving. The surface of the coin itself can tell a story, with its luster, color, and wear patterns revealing how it has traveled through countless hands, perhaps used in everyday purchases, stored away in jars, or even forgotten in drawers for decades before being rediscovered. And when a coin is found in mint state condition, with its original shine intact and no signs of wear, it becomes significantly more valuable to collectors, especially if it has been professionally graded by a reputable grading service, which evaluates the coin on a scale that ranges from heavily worn to perfect mint condition. And then there is the emotional aspect of coin collecting, the idea that something so small and seemingly insignificant can carry with it a piece of history, a connection to a specific time and place, and the thrill of the hunt that drives collectors to keep searching, always wondering if the next coin they examine could be the one that changes everything, the one that transforms an ordinary moment into an extraordinary discovery, a simple penny into a story worth telling for generations. As you continue to explore the world of the 1978 D Lincoln cent, you begin to realize that its true value is not just measured in dollars, whether it be 1 cent or millions, but in the stories it holds, the craftsmanship it represents, and the endless curiosity it inspires in those who take the time to look a little closer, to question the ordinary, and to imagine the extraordinary hidden within something as simple as a single coin. As you keep looking deeper into the journey of this 1978 D1 cent coin, the real fascination begins to unfold when you understand how minting technology and human precision come together, because every single coin passes through multiple stages before it ever reaches someone's pocket, starting from blank metal discs known as planchets, which are carefully cut, cleaned, and prepared before being fed into high-pressure presses that strike the design onto both sides in a fraction of a second. And during this intense process, even the slightest variation in pressure, alignment, or die condition can create subtle differences that may go unnoticed by the general public but are instantly recognizable to experienced collectors who train their eyes to spot the smallest irregularities. In 1978, the Denver Mint was producing coins at an enormous scale, and with such high output, the possibility of mint errors naturally increased. And this is where the story becomes even more intriguing, because while most coins were struck perfectly within acceptable standards, a few slipped through with imperfections that would later become highly desirable, such as doubled dies where the design appears slightly duplicated due to a misalignment during the die creation process, or off-center strikes where the coin design is not perfectly aligned with the edge, creating a visually striking and rare appearance that immediately sets it apart from standard coins. Another aspect that collectors pay close attention to is the quality of the strike itself, because even if a coin is not technically rare in terms of mintage numbers, a sharply struck example with full detail, especially in areas like Lincoln's hair or the fine lines of the Lincoln Memorial, can command a much higher value than a weakly struck counterpart. And when such a coin is preserved in near-perfect condition, often referred to as MS65, MS66, or even higher on the grading scale, its desirability increases significantly. Among serious collectors who are willing to pay a premium for top-quality specimens, the color of the coin also plays a major role in its value, especially for copper coins like the 1978 D penny, which are often categorized into three main types: red, red-brown, and brown, depending on how much of the original copper luster remains, and coins that retain their bright original red color are typically the most valuable, as they indicate minimal exposure to air and environmental elements, while brown coins, although still collectible, usually carry a lower value due to oxidation that occurs over time. Now, when people talk about extraordinary values like $234 million for a single penny, it's important to understand that such figures are often driven by extreme rarity scenarios, unique historical significance, or even hypothetical situations discussed within the collecting community, because in reality, For a coin to reach such an astronomical price, it would need to possess an almost unbelievable combination of factors, such as being a one-of-a-kind error, having a direct historical connection, or being part of a legendary collection that adds to its story and desirability. And while the 1978 D penny is not officially recorded as reaching such a value, the idea itself fuels curiosity and excitement, encouraging people to look more closely at the coins they already have. There is also a psychological element involved in coin collecting, where the possibility of discovering something rare creates a sense of anticipation that keeps collectors engaged, and this is especially true for coins like the 1978 D penny, which are still relatively easy to find, meaning that anyone could potentially come across one, whether in loose change, old jars, or inherited collections, and that accessibility makes the hunt even more thrilling, because it feels like the treasure is not locked away in a museum, but rather hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. Over the years, many collectors have shared stories of finding valuable coins in the most unexpected places, from rolls of pennies purchased at banks to forgotten collections passed down through generations, and each of these discoveries adds to the overall mystique of coin collecting, reinforcing the idea that even a common coin can become extraordinary under the right circumstances, and that belief is what keeps the hobby alive, constantly drawing in new enthusiasts who are eager to learn, explore, and perhaps one day make a remarkable discovery of their own. The market for collectible coins is also constantly evolving, influenced by factors such as demand, economic conditions, and the growing interest in tangible assets. And while the majority of 1978 D pennies remain inexpensive, high-grade examples and error coins can still fetch impressive prices at auctions, especially when multiple collectors compete for the same piece, driving up its value through bidding wars that highlight just how passionate and dedicated the numismatic community can be. It is also worth noting that authentication and grading have become essential parts of the coin collecting process, as professional grading services provide an objective evaluation of a coin's condition and authenticity, giving buyers confidence in their purchases and helping to establish a standardized market value. And for a coin like the 1978 D penny, having it graded can make a significant difference in its perceived worth, especially if it turns out to be in exceptional condition or possesses a rare feature that sets it apart from the rest. As you continue to explore this seemingly simple coin, it becomes clear that its true significance goes far beyond its face value, because it represents a blend of history, artistry, and human curiosity, all wrapped into a small piece of metal that has traveled through time, carrying with it the potential to surprise, inspire, and even change someone's perspective on what value truly means, reminding us that sometimes the most extraordinary stories are hidden within the most ordinary objects. And as this journey continues, the deeper you step into the world of this 1978 D 1-cent coin, the more you begin to understand that its story is not just about metal, design, or even value, but about the invisible network of collectors, historians, and enthusiasts who dedicate years of their lives to studying coins with an almost obsessive level of detail, because in their eyes, every tiny variation tells a story, every scratch, every shine, every microscopic shift in alignment becomes a clue, a possibility, a hidden signature left behind during the moment of its creation at the mint. When experts examine a coin like this, they often use magnification tools, bright lighting, and sometimes even digital imaging to analyze its surface, searching for signs that the average person would completely miss, such as die cracks, repunched mint marks, or subtle doubling in the lettering. And these small features can dramatically increase the coin's desirability if they are rare or well documented within the collecting community. Because rarity is not always obvious at first glance, it often reveals itself only to those who are patient enough to look closely and knowledgeable enough to recognize what they are seeing. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1978 D penny is how it exists in such large numbers, and yet still holds the potential for uniqueness, because with millions of coins produced, It might seem impossible for any single piece to stand out, and yet history has shown time and time again that within mass production, anomalies are inevitable, and those anomalies are what transform an ordinary coin into something extraordinary, something that collectors chase with passion and determination, sometimes for decades without success. There is also the element of preservation, which plays a critical role in determining a coin's final value, because even the rarest coin can lose much of its worth if it is damaged, cleaned improperly, or exposed to harsh environmental conditions, and this is why experienced collectors emphasize proper storage, using protective holders, climate-controlled environments, and careful handling techniques to ensure that their coins remain in the best possible condition, preserving not just their monetary value, but also their historical integrity. In the case of copper coins, like the 1978 D penny, preservation becomes even more challenging, as copper is highly reactive and prone to oxidation, which can alter the coin's color and surface over time, gradually transforming a bright red coin into a darker brown one. And while this natural aging process is not necessarily a flaw, it does affect how the coin is categorized and valued within the market, with original red coins often commanding the highest prices due to their rarity and well-preserved condition. Another layer of intrigue comes from the stories that surround coins, because sometimes it is not just the coin itself that holds value, but the journey it has taken, the people who have owned it, and the context in which it was discovered. And this is where the idea of a coin reaching an almost unimaginable value like $234 million begins to take on a symbolic meaning, representing the ultimate dream of collectors, the possibility that somewhere out there exists a coin so rare, so unique, and so historically significant that it transcends ordinary valuation and becomes a legend within the numismatic world. Even though such extreme valuations are often speculative or exaggerated, they serve an important purpose by capturing attention and sparking curiosity, drawing more people into the world of coin collecting, where they begin to learn about grading systems, mint marks, historical timelines, and the intricate details that define each coin. And as they learn, they start to see coins not just as currency, but as miniature works of art and history, each one carrying a piece of the past into the present. The 1978 D penny also serves as a reminder of how everyday objects can hold hidden potential, because while most people might overlook it as just another coin, those who take the time to study it understand that value is not always immediately visible. It often requires knowledge, patience, and a willingness to look beyond the surface, and this perspective can be applied not just to coins, but to many aspects of life, where the most valuable things are often hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who are curious enough to search for them. As the coin market continues to grow and evolve, driven by technology, online auctions, and a global network of collectors, the opportunities for discovering rare coins have expanded significantly, allowing people from all over the world to participate in the hunt, to share their findings, and to learn from one another, creating a dynamic and ever-changing landscape where even a coin like the 1978 D penny can gain new attention and appreciation as more people begin to explore its story. And so, what started as a simple 1-cent coin becomes something much more, a symbol of history, curiosity, and possibility, a reminder that even the smallest objects can carry the greatest stories, and that sometimes all it takes is a closer look to uncover something truly extraordinary, something that challenges our understanding of value and reminds us that the line between ordinary and extraordinary is often much thinner than we think. And as the story moves forward, the fascination surrounding the 1978 D 1-cent coin begins to merge with the broader evolution of coin collecting itself, a hobby that has transformed dramatically over the decades, shifting from simple accumulation to a highly sophisticated field where knowledge, timing, and precision can define success. Because today's collectors are not just searching blindly, they are studying mint records, analyzing population reports, tracking auction results, and comparing microscopic details across thousands of coins in order to identify the rarest and most valuable examples hidden within seemingly ordinary batches. One of the most critical turning points for any coin, including the 1978 D penny, is the moment it gets professionally graded and encapsulated, often referred to as being slabbed, where it is sealed in a transparent holder along with an official grade that reflects its condition, and this process adds a level of trust and credibility that significantly impacts its market value, because buyers know they are dealing with an authenticated piece that has been evaluated by experts, and in competitive auctions, even a slight difference in grade, such as MS66 versus MS67, can result in a dramatic increase in price, sometimes multiplying the coin's value several times over. There is also the concept of population rarity, which refers to how many coins exist at a specific grade level, and this is where things become particularly interesting, because while millions of 1978 D pennies were produced, only a very small fraction may exist in near-perfect condition, making those few examples incredibly desirable among collectors who are striving to build the highest quality sets possible. And when demand exceeds supply at those top grades, prices can rise quickly, fueled by competition and the prestige associated with owning one of the finest known specimens. At the same time, the role of storytelling cannot be underestimated, because coins that are associated with unique narratives, whether it be a rare mint error, an unusual discovery, or a connection to a notable collection, often attract more attention and higher bids, as collectors are not just buying the coin itself, but also the story that comes with it, the sense of owning a piece of history that stands out from the rest. And this emotional connection can sometimes push values far beyond what might be expected based solely on rarity or condition. In the case of the 1978 D penny, the idea of it reaching an extraordinary value like $234 million may sound unbelievable, and in practical terms, such a figure would require an unprecedented combination of factors, including extreme rarity, global demand, historical significance, and perhaps even media attention that elevates the coin into a cultural phenomenon. But what makes this idea powerful is not whether it has already happened, but the possibility it represents, the way it inspires people to look more closely at what they already have, to question assumptions, and to consider that value is not always fixed. It can change dramatically based on perception, context, and demand. Another important dimension to consider is the role of the global market, because coin collecting is no longer limited to local communities or small groups of enthusiasts. It has become an international activity where collectors from different countries compete for the same rare items, and online platforms have made it possible for a coin discovered in one part of the world to be sold to a collector on the other side of the globe within minutes, creating a level of connectivity that has significantly increased both the visibility and the potential value of rare coins. Technology has also played a major role in shaping the modern coin market, with high-resolution imaging, digital catalogs, and online databases allowing collectors to study coins in incredible detail without even holding them physically. And this access to information has made it easier for new collectors to enter the field, learn quickly, and participate in the market, while also raising the overall level of competition as more people become capable of identifying rare coins and recognizing valuable opportunities. Despite all these advancements, however, the essence of coin collecting remains the same, rooted in curiosity, patience, and the thrill of discovery, because no matter how advanced the tools become, there is still something uniquely exciting about holding a coin in your hand, examining it closely, and realizing that it might be more than what it appears, that it might carry a hidden detail, a rare feature, or a story that is yet to be uncovered. And that moment of realization is what keeps collectors coming back, again and again, driven by the hope that the next coin they examine could be the one that stands out. And so, the 1978 D1 cent coin continues to exist in this fascinating space between the ordinary and the extraordinary, a coin that most people would overlook, yet one that holds within it the potential to captivate, to inspire, and to challenge the way we think about value, reminding us that sometimes the smallest things can carry the greatest mysteries, and that the journey of discovery is often just as valuable as the treasure itself, if not more. And as everything finally comes together, the story of this 1978 D1 cent coin reaches a point where it is no longer just about metal, numbers, or even rarity. It becomes something far deeper, something almost philosophical, because what you are really looking at is a tiny object that has survived decades of circulation, countless exchanges, moments in people's lives that we will never know. And yet it is still here, still carrying its identity, its date, its min-mark, its silent testimony of time, and that alone gives it a kind of value that goes beyond any price tag ever imagined. Think about it for a moment. This coin could have been in the pocket of a worker buying his first meal after a long shift, or passed between hands during a simple everyday transaction, or stored away by someone who never realized its potential, and now, years later, it finds itself being examined, discussed, and imagined as something that could be worth an unimaginable fortune. And that transformation, from ordinary to extraordinary, is what makes this story so powerful, because it reminds us that value is not always fixed. It evolves with knowledge, with perspective, and with the stories we attach to the things we hold. The idea of a $234 million penny may sound like a dream, something too big to be real, but in the world of collecting, dreams are what drive discovery. They push people to search deeper, to learn more, to question what others ignore, and sometimes those dreams lead to real finds, coins that were once dismissed but later recognized as rare treasures, selling for thousands, even millions, simply because someone took the time to look closer, to believe that there might be more hidden beneath the surface. For collectors, the 1978 D penny represents possibility, not certainty. It represents the idea that even in a coin produced in massive quantities, there can still be uniqueness. There can still be value waiting to be uncovered, whether it is in the form of a rare error, an exceptional grade, or simply a piece that has been preserved in a way that makes it stand out from millions of others. And that possibility is what keeps the hunt alive, what keeps collectors searching through jars, rolls, and collections with the same excitement as if they were searching for buried treasure. And beyond the collectors, beyond the auctions, beyond the numbers and the grades, there is a simple but powerful message hidden within this coin's journey, a reminder that sometimes the most overlooked things can hold the greatest potential, that what seems small and insignificant today can become something extraordinary tomorrow, and that all it takes is a shift in perspective, a willingness to look closer, to question, to explore, and to believe that value is not always where we expect it to be. So the next time you come across a simple 1 cent coin, especially one like the 1978 D with its small D min-mark quietly marking its origin, take a moment before you dismiss it, hold it, examine it, notice the details, the weight of 3.11 grams, the copper shine, the portrait of Lincoln that has endured for generations, and ask yourself a simple question: what if this is not just a coin? What if this is a story waiting to be discovered, a hidden opportunity, a small piece of history that has somehow found its way into your hands? Because in the end, whether this coin is worth 1 cent or millions, whether it is common or rare, the true value lies in what it represents, the curiosity it sparks, the knowledge it inspires, and the endless possibilities it reminds us of. And that is what makes this journey unforgettable, what turns a simple coin into something far greater than its face value, something that captures imagination, fuels dreams, and leaves you wondering, just for a moment, if the next coin you find could change everything.